I got a call. Christopher said, yes. He said, come on down and talk to me. And I said, sure. And I went down to his office. He said, we're doing this movie. I think it's going to be called Waiting for Guffman. I said, that's a strange title. He said, it's going to be completely improvised. There's no script. So my first thought was, gee, that's great. Because the toughest part about being in a movie is learning the lines. And he said, you're the first person I've asked to be in it. I said, oh, gee, that's wonderful. He said, we're trying to get Catherine O'Hara. We'll have Eugene Levy. He says, I ran the idea past my friend Marty Short. And I said, uh-huh. And he says, Marty said he loved it. He says, let's do it. And he said, I had to tell Marty, no, we want people who aren't well known. So that brought me down a notch. So, okay, so I left. He says, I'll call you later. So I was walking to my car. I said, gee, I don't have to memorize lines. And I said, oh, but wait a minute. I'm going to have to come up with my own lines. So what it is, we went to Austin, Texas, and we did it. And there was pretty much of a script, 10 or 12 pages outlining exactly what the show was. We had to learn songs. We had to learn dances, which was the most difficult thing. They hired a choreographer for us. We went, when we had any downtime, we'd go to the dance studio and learn these dances. And it was a wonderful experience. It was the first one at the time. And it was about an acting troupe in this town in Missouri. And so as an actor, you take to it, and I loved it. And they didn't know what they had, Castle Rock, for a long time, and it didn't come out for a long time. But when it did, it got a very much of a cult following.
We wanted to ask specifically about your Ron and Sheila's audition, because it's one of our favorite scenes in a movie of all time. So you said that was actually choreographed.
Yes. Not so much. I came up with the idea that it should be a Taster's Choice commercial. Because I think these actors, I don't know if you remember that commercial. They were kind of British, and it was a series of them. Taster's Choice. Maybe I'll drop around your house around 11 o'clock and we'll have some, I forget what it was, but I thought these actors would think that was the ultimate in acting. And so I said, why don't we do that as the scene? So Chris Guest wanted to do Midnight at the Oasis because he'd gone to school with a fellow who wrote that. So we combined it together. And the audition scene, we sat out in the foyer, and what you see is what you had. We were sitting out there, we did our scenes, and when the time, we rehearsed the musical number, Midnight at the Oasis, and then we opened the door and we walked in. It was like a real audition. There was Bob Balaban sitting there, there was Christopher Guest, there were a few more people. That whole scene was improvised. We did it twice, and Bob Balaban just could look at me, and he scared me to death. I said, he doesn't like us. And I came up with the line about, shall we strike the chair? Because again, this is one of the terms Ron had thought of, and he wanted to impress everyone with his knowledge of acting. So it was scary. It was like a real audition.
And talk about your chemistry with Catherine O'Hara.
Before the movie, I'd contacted her. We were playing husband and wife. I called her a couple of times. I said, Catherine, we should get together and talk about our background, where we met. And I never heard from her. And the first time we were on the set, we had to do our interviews. After a few of the shots, she said, Fred, maybe we should take some time to talk about our characters. She's kind of elusive. She's a wonderful boy to work with. It's great. We had a lot of fun doing that scene. It was my idea. Chris asked us to come up with a hobby because a lot of the movie was inside. Let's come up with something outdoors. I'm a big baseball fan, and I'm a fan of the history of baseball, and I'm very taken up with I think it was 1960 World Series, the Pittsburgh Pirates, where the guy hit a game-winning home run, and I'd like to reenact that. So I had the idea of making my wife throw me a wiffle ball. I had a wiffle back and hitting the home run. And the first pitch, and she played it drunk. She didn't want to get up and pitch. Come on, honey, let's do it. So she pitched me the wiffle ball, and luckily I nailed it. And unfortunately, Chris left all those things out of the original movie, but he put them in the DVD. And someone gave me a review that I hung on my wall saying it was one of the high points of the DVD was Fred Willard's reenactment of the World Series game. So I was tickled about that.